Hello everyone, the Bike Channel Nation, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be, because a lot of you have asked the question, I'm going to be showing you how many bikes I've had since I started riding trials. I'm going to be starting with the first trials bike I had and going through to the current trials bike I have. So let's go. So first up we have an Echo Light 20-inch trials bike mod. Sorry for the absolutely poor picture, but this is all I could get off my video online. So this was my first bike that I got. I got it as a reward for doing well in some tests at school, and I got into trials from there on out. I do actually know who's still got it, so I may get it back at some point and build it. Second bike, we have got my first inspired street bike, which is an inspired 4-player. I think it was like a 2011 edition. It was in purple. Again, I think I got this about 2 years after I got my little 20-inch Echo street bike. I think it was again a reward for doing well at school or something. But yeah, it was my first proper like street trials bike, and I wish I still had it. It was so good. I think this was actually bought new from Thoxson back in the day. So all the parts you can kind of see on it in this photo are the original parts. And those rims, in fact, that are on it, James Patchybag got those because he's a massive basher and they're the only rims strong enough for the job there. Next bike.
You were rating them out of 10.
Oh yeah, I was going to rate them out of 10. Thanks, mate. So straight up, back to the Echo. I'm going to give that a solid, I mean it's a mod, so I really don't like mods now, so I'm going to give it a 5. But the fact it was my first bike, I'm going to give it a 7. Inspired 4-player street bike, I'm going to have to give that. Back then it was good, but for now, if I had that now, I'd probably give it a 6. But again, because it was my first ever proper street bike, I'm going to give it a 7. Next bike, this was like when I started building bikes and buying components online and like building up a custom bike, and here was my arcade. So ignore the obscene amount of headset space, as you can see. I don't really know what I was doing there. But this was my, I don't know, like 2014 arcade. And I managed to get all Hope parts, but I know this picture is brakeless, but I did actually manage to get all purple Hope parts for it eventually. And again, this was probably one of my favourite bikes. I'll give this a solid, I'll give this an 8 out of 10 for the spec. After my arcade, the gaps between buying bikes here is getting smaller and smaller. But after the arcade, I've got the Inspired Sky. This was the V3, something like that. It's the one Danny Mac rode in most of his videos. The black one. It was sick. Funny story, I accidentally ordered 4 of these when I ordered it, and I got a message through from my bank at the time asking if I really wanted to spend 9,000 something pounds on 4 trials bikes. I was actually drunk when I bought this bike, but no regrets. Rideability, and for the bike itself at the time, I'd give this bike a full 9 out of 10. It's fantastic. The Inspired Sky was brilliant. Next, I got an Inspired arcade, a red one. Once I saw LEC riding one, that was it. I was hooked. I needed one again. Again, that was just George procrastinating back then and buying more bikes. Once again, I did actually sell my bikes at the time. I didn't keep them all in my shed like the millionaire you think I am. I did actually sell that Inspired Sky to Nicholas Prulu over in Canada. But yeah, I got this red Inspired arcade and it was so good. I did in fact manage to snap it by riding it under the influence of alcohol, which I would not recommend. So I managed to snap that, which leads me to this one, which was my replacement for it. So I kind of count this as a 5th bike. So the 5th bike was on a snap. This is probably this is the 6th bike I had as far as frames go. Again, at the time, even now it's still a really good bike, but at the time I would have given this a 9 out of 10 just because it was so advanced for me and it made my riding just feel a lot better, and I progressed so much in it. And the colour was great as well, it was like creme red. Next we have an Inspired Sky again. So this was the V3.5 I think. I actually traded frames here with Ewan Beeden, so I gave Ewan my arcade frame and he gave me the Sky frame because we were both trying stuff out at the time. He actually took that bike and painted it, he painted it like this ardent blue colour, which is the colour of a Vauxhall Corsa, and I kept this the same. I didn't actually paint it, but we ended up both getting on really well on these different bikes. So Inspired Sky again, I'd still give this a 9.5. It is a fantastic. So I don't know if any of you know this, after I had this bike I actually did sell it and I quit riding trials for like a year and a half. I can't remember why. I was doing some other stuff and I actually didn't have a bike. And then throughout that quitting period, I in fact bought one of these. which was a Mafia bike BMX. And if I'm being brutally honest with you, it was shit. I would give this bike probably 2 out of 10 because it rode awful and it was cheap and rubbish. When I eventually ventured back into the trial scene, I went out and got myself an arcade again. Not any arcade, the arcade that Ewan sprayed blue, that was red, and now I've sprayed it fluorescent yellow. At the time, Ewan suddenly got sponsored by Extension, so he was getting bikes through them, which meant he no longer needed this frame. So I thought I will snap it up and get back into trials. I originally bought it and I put a set of Kendo tyres on it and like the most budget parts you could, just to get about, and then I eventually upgraded to what you can see here with Conti tyres, spank free. This bike, again for me, was kind of a breakthrough because it was where I made a lot of progression again, and really started to enjoy riding trials again and getting back into it. So I'll give it an 8.5. After my arcade, I had a go on Adrian Jordan, also known as Mind Control Trials, his Hex on a street ride, and I basically fell in love with it. It was amazing, and I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. I got one of these, absolutely loved it. Again, great bike, first set of carbon rims I got. I still highly rate this bike, even in that Geo, that colourway, loved it. I'll give it a 9, straight up. If I'd have any 26-inch bike, not that there's a massive market for them, I'd have one of these. I then proceeded to paint it purple, keeping the carbon rims and the pink theme. I think it was probably handlebar tassels away from a Barbie bike, so I'd probably give this version of it a 7, just because I really did not rate the look of this. Once moving on from the Hex, I went to an Inspired 4Play. I found this frame kit on eBay, fairly cheap. Again, paired it up with some carbon rims. Going back to 24 from 26, I made the move back because I wanted something more twitchy again after being on 26 for a while. These were way before the days where I'd switch frames every 2-3 weeks. So I wanted something more twitchy again. I thought the next best thing was a 4Play. I hadn't really tried one. Got one, wasn't disappointed. And this was by far the best colour bike I had. I know I had a fair few fluorescent colour bikes, but this one was my favourite. I'll give this bike an honest 9.5 out of 10. Next is this frame kit. This actually never surfaced because I never actually built up. I owned this frame kit for a day and eventually sold it to Matty Turner, who still hasn't built it up. It is in fact the Sky 3.5 green frame kit, and I got it sprayed purple to go with my hub you can see in the background there. In the aim to ride that because I wanted to ride a Sky again. Something shorter, but I eventually did sell that because this came along, which is the Trialite Maestro Carbon 24-inch Pro X Lite trials bike, which at the time, again, paired up with the carbon rims. No one had carbon trials bikes, apart from you, and had an extension. This came along, and I just had to have it. So I went and bought one of these, built it up, rode it for probably 6 months. It was absolutely fantastic. It was only when I bashed it on a post and the carbon on the bottom delaminated and it properly cracked, I got in touch with Maestro, who were kind enough to send me a warranty one out, which I then actually sold. This is, you can see the ongoing thing. They sent me a frame out that I actually sold to Jack Lemmon for a while, which I'll get onto in a minute. But I give this bike again 9.5. Rideability, the weight, everything. One of the best bikes I've had by far. So the reason, in fact, I did actually sell my warranty frame I got was because at the time I got sponsored by TMS, which was a stainless steel street trials bike. So this again was a big stepping stone in my kind of bike riding career / path, because one, I was sponsored, which was fantastic, life goal achieved. 2, I was, back on a steel bike, which again wasn't ideal at the time, but I did want to go on the side because I love the look of it. I remember I did like steel bikes a lot, and I wasn't disappointed. I rode it loads, had loads of fun. I felt it rode great. It was a bit heavy, but again, you get used to that, and you get more muscle in, you get adapted to it even. As some of you may know, like I said in my Q&A, the reason I got rid of the TMS was because the sponsorship for me was kind of right thing, wrong time. So that kind of went, and I got back on the warranty frame, which came from Maestro. So I need to rate the TMS frame, all in all, because it was a sponsored bike as well. And it was really good to ride. The Geo was probably one of the best Geos I've ever ridden. If it was just a bit lighter, it would have been fantastic. I'll give it a 9. I then went on to the Maestro again, the warranty frame. I actually rode this probably twice and then snapped it, which a lot of people actually did snap these. So yeah, I did that, managed to snap it. Maestro claim they're making a new one that's stronger and then sending one out, but I haven't heard anything in about 8 months, so I kind of doubt that's happening and I've been scammed. But hey ho, we live, we move on. Next bike was the Inspired Sky V3.5, but with a Maestro fork in it. Jordan Lee lent me this frame because he's a fucking tank. When I was in need of a broken frame, he was there. He lent me a spare frame, which was absolutely fantastic, so thank you again, Jordan, for that. Running with the Maestro frame and the 110 stem on it, again, it just absolutely transformed this bike. I would probably give this one of the best handling bikes I've actually had. I'd give it a 9.5. The colour scheme on it is shite, but the whole bike itself, fantastic to ride. Absolutely loved it. And next we have back to 26, which was my 2022 Inspired Hex. Yeah, 2022, 2021 Inspired Hex. I made the move back to the Hex because again, I went on a ride and stupidly got on someone's 26-inch bike whose name is not John Shrewsbury, and probably within the next couple of weeks I went out and bought one off Johan Tribolat, if that's how you pronounce your name. I completely butchered that. But yeah, again, this bike, as far as 26-inch bikes go, I'm actually going to give it a 10 because it is the best of the 26-inch bikes, or 26-inch bikes. I had so much fun riding it. I'd probably still have one in the garage if I could afford to have 2 bikes running at the same time, but unfortunately I can only run one. Which brings me on to my current and final bike, the Extension Avenger 24-inch Street Trials Beast Machine. This bike, again, is up there with one of the best bikes I've ridden, geo-wise, strength-wise, just rideability-wise. The only reason I would change it is to make the steerer tube on the fork thicker, because it is very flexible, and I do know other people have snapped the steerer tubes, like I've said before, which I'm not looking forward to doing. I've also seen they've snapped it in other places, and again, I'm not sponsored by Extension. I got this off of you and Beeden, so that was very kind of them to sell it to me. But if I did end up snapping it, I probably wouldn't be getting a bike for for a long time. So for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8, and that is the last of the bikes that I've got. So, if you enjoyed, I don't know how many bikes there is, I think that's about 19 bikes since I started riding trials. If you did like the video, or you've got any questions about the bikes that I've had, or in fact why I've got an extension for sale, then please do drop a comment below. Let me know below as well what you thought your favourite bike was, and I've got a new bike coming in the post soon. Goodbye.